Hello and welcome to Dragon Puppet. My name is Thomas and today we're talking about Dragonmeet 2025. It was the first time that Dragonmeet has taken place at the ExCeL exhibition centre in London. So I wanted to do a quick video talking about what Dragonmeet is, how it's changed over the years and what it was like this year at the ExCeL. So Dragonmeet is the biggest RPG convention in the UK and it's been going for about 50 years. I can't exactly pin down for sure when it started, but I think it was about 1975. It's been going on for a long time. Over the years, Dragonmeet has been hosted at various different venues. But for the first time ever, Dragonmeet was hosted at the ExCeL Exhibition Centre this year, which is a dedicated convention space. Dragonmeet is still a relatively small convention, even though it's the biggest RPG convention in the UK, compared to other big gaming conventions like MCM or Salute or stuff like that. It's relatively small, which is why it's usually hosted in hotels rather than at exhibition centres. But it has been growing year on year, with about 3,000 attendees in 2019. Obviously this slumped during COVID, but it started to pick up again and it is getting bigger and bigger, which is why this year they were able to take it to the ExCeL. So what exactly is there to do at Dragonmeet? So the biggest part of Dragonmeet is all the retailers and traders that are selling all their stuff related to RPGs. So that's new games, old games, books, miniatures, dice, gaming tables, terrain pieces, and anything else that's even kind of closely related to tabletop RPGs. Dragonmeet is also great for loads and loads of demos where you can just show up and try out new games that you've never tried before. Some of the traders host demos at their booth, but there's also dedicated demo spaces where different companies can host all kinds of different demos for different games, solo games and also big group games. There's also a bunch of seminars which take place over the course of the day in various different seminar rooms off from the main convention. These vary from kind of like fun, silly, performative stuff like podcasts or improv groups that are kind of D&D related, as well as more educational seminars about how to run a game, how to start writing your own game, how to create different RPG characters, all kinds of interesting stuff like that. And lastly, there's also a whole bunch of RPGs that take place at Dragonmeet which you can book onto in advance. So this is where Dragonmeet have a bunch of GMs which run a whole variety of different games over the course of the day. Not just D&D, all kinds of different systems, and you book in advance on the website before you go. So you might want to go with a bunch of friends, or you can book onto an RPG with a bunch of strangers and make some new friends. These are always really good because the GMs that run these sessions are usually really good GMs. These are guys that take their craft really seriously. Spaces on these RPGs do tend to go pretty quickly, so make sure when you get your ticket to also book into your RPGs as quick as you can. But if you can't get any RPGs, there's still all the demo games which you can just show up to and try on the day. There's also a space where there's just a bunch of tables that you can go and use to play games yourself. So if you bought a new game at Dragonmeet and you want to get it out of the box and try it straight away, you can do that. Or maybe you're meeting up with friends that you don't see very often, you could bring some board games with you and you could just spend an hour or two at Dragonmeet just catching up with your friends and playing some of your favourite board games. Mixed in amongst all the traders is usually some other kind of demos or special things going on, like the paint and play, where you can just show up, sit down and paint a miniature for free. These are usually sponsored by a painting company or a miniature company, so they provide all the paints and the minis, and you can just sit down and paint for a bit, either with some friends, or again, you can make some new friends sitting down next to some strangers. So there's loads of stuff to do at Dragonmeet, whether you want to walk around all day looking at the different traders, or you want to sit down and enjoy a seminar, an RPG, or demo, or even just a paint and play. There's loads to do and it easily fills up a whole day. So like I said at the start, this was the first year that Dragonmeet is at the ExCeL Exhibition Centre, which is a massive dedicated convention space. Now, obviously it didn't take up the whole space because even the humongous cons like MCM do not take up the whole convention centre, but it took up one whole hall, which is a much bigger space than it's ever needed previously. This meant that Dragonmeet had double the number of traders as it did last year, which is a huge increase in traders. And that's really good because that's one of the things I love most about Dragonmeet is walking around and seeing loads of new interesting products and just getting an idea of different stuff and treating myself to some new dice or some new miniatures. In the past, when Dragonmeet has been hosted at hotels, it's usually a little bit confusing because the hotel space is quite small and Dragonmeet is usually spread over several different floors of the hotel and often into side rooms as well. So it can be a bit tricky to try and realize if you've actually done the whole convention, if you've missed stuff, or getting a vibe of everything that's available because you can't just see it all. Whereas at the ExCeL, you walked into the convention center and you could see the whole of Dragonmeet spread out before you, and it was very easy to just walk up and down the aisles and make sure that you'd done everything. Also, having so much more space meant that it felt less crowded. When it was hosted at hotel venues in the past, it always felt a bit crowded because they were trying to squeeze so much stuff into a very small space. Even though there are more attendees now than probably ever before, it still felt much more peaceful and much more relaxing walking around. Traders were well spaced out, so there was lots of room to get around, and it didn't feel too claustrophobic. I guess the only one disadvantage of this is it didn't feel quite as cozy or charming as it did when it was at the hotels. Because the space is so much bigger and completely open plan, you can see everything, and it does feel a bit like a big warehouse, which is kind of what it is. When you're obviously at a hotel, it's a bit more charming because of all the different levels and different rooms and carpets, and there's a bar in the corner, all kinds of stuff. It felt a bit more cozy when it was at the hotels, but I still think on the whole, this is an upgrade, and Dragonmeet being at the ExCeL is a definite improvement. There was loads of really interesting stuff at Dragonmeet this year. Because there were so many more traders, I guess there was just so much more to see, and there was some really cool stuff that I'd not seen before. One of the traders I want to give a quick shout out to was Modular Realms. I was really impressed with this product. It's basically a magnetic tile terrain board for D&D or other RPGs, which on the surface might seem pretty standard. You've probably seen lots of different dungeon terrain products before, but this one was just really well thought through and just really well produced. It's magnetized for a start, which is really fun, and it makes it really easy to assemble. And the magnets actually spin inside the tiles, which means they never repel one another, so you can flip the tile around and it still works, which means also all the tiles are double-sided. It was produced to a really high quality, and also as the cherry on top is that these sets are actually stored in these books, which is just a really fun extra detail. Obviously, if the product works, it doesn't really matter how it's stored, but these guys have gone the extra mile to make even the storage of this product really visually satisfying. So once you collect a few of these sets and you put them in your bookshelf, they look really cool too. This product was so well made that even aside from using it to actually map out dungeons, I saw a lot of people going up to the booth and just playing with the tiles. It could just be a fun game to just sit down with a bunch of these tiles and just slowly assemble a dungeon just for the sake of it. I was really impressed with this product, if you can't tell. So if you're interested, go and check them out. One of the demos that I played, which was really fun, was a game called Cuberia. This game actually isn't even out yet. They were just demoing it so people could get interested in it and so they could get feedback for their playtesting. And it was a really fun, interesting concept. Basically, the players are all architects that have been summoned to build a palace for a mad king. And you take it in turns to assemble these pieces, which all fit together in different ways, but you have to fit them together under the specifications of the cards you draw, under the specifications of the mad king. And it was really fun. And at the end of the game, you're left with this really visually satisfying, unique structure, which every time you play, it's going to end up looking very different. But no matter how we played it, it always looked really cool at the end. Like I said, you can't actually buy this game yet, but the Kickstarter is coming out soon. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to learn more about that. I also spent a lot of time at the Arcadia booth because they make these amazing gaming tables. And I've been thinking about buying a gaming table for a while. And there's a few different companies to choose from, and they produce different kinds of tables with different features at different price points. And it was really good to talk to these guys and actually see one of these tables in person, get a feel of it, get a feel of the size and how it would fit in my house. We've just finished renovating the dining room in this house, and I think it's time we fitted it out with a proper dedicated gaming table. So Arcadia might be where we end up going for that table. That's basically all there is to this video. In summary, I thought Dragonmeet at ExCeL was an excellent upgrade. I think it worked really well in that space, and I look forward to going again next year. If you've not been to Dragonmeet before, I highly recommend it. It's not too big a convention that it's overwhelming like some of the other ones, but it's also not so small and niche that it just feels like a few people walking around a room. There's still hundreds of people there sharing all kinds of interesting RPG products, and you can make loads of friends at the seminars, the RPGs, at the demos, and at the paint and play. It's just all around a really good convention. And it's in December, which is out of the main kind of busy convention season. So if you're like me and you like going to conventions, you might be a bit lacking for conventions in the winter, but Dragonmeet is there for you. And it's really fun and it's really worth doing. If you've been to Dragonmeet before and you've been going for a while, I actually tried to do a bit of research about the history of Dragonmeet, and I can't find much information on it out there. So if you have been before, or you know someone that's been going for years, or you know the person that started the first Dragonmeet, please do let me know. I want to do a video soon, which is a big deep dive into the proper history of Dragonmeet. I'm going to reach out to some other people. I'm going to message the organizers, see what information they can give me. And I'm going to try and do a proper, interesting deep dive into the full 50-year history of Dragonmeet, how it started, how it evolved, and really dive deep into how it came to be what it is today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do let me know in the comments. Let me know if you went to Dragonmeet. How did you find it? Was it worth it moving it to the ExCeL, or do you prefer it back at the old hotel venues? Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.